Imagine a cake. It sits on a crystal platter. It is covered in snow-white frosting, garnished with delicate parsley leaves. It looks like a birthday dream. You take a knife. You slice into the soft white exterior, and then the horror sets in. There is no chocolate inside. There is no vanilla sponge. There is only ham and eggs and processed cheese. Welcome to the frosted sandwich loaf, the ultimate betrayal of the 1960s dinner party. This wasn't just food, this was architecture. It was a triumph of chemistry over nature, and it is the perfect symbol for a lost civilization. A civilization that lived in our suburbs, a tribe we call our parents. Today we are going back. We are opening the Tupperware of history. We are peeling back the foil on 25 dishes, dishes that have vanished from the earth, and for good reason. We are exploring the era of the aspic, the age of the meat shape. This is a journey into the culinary unknown. Buckle up, and maybe put down your lunch. Act 1. The Shrine of the Cold. The year is 1965, the space race is on, technology is saving the world, and in the kitchen a revolution is happening. It is big, it is humming, it is the electric refrigerator. For centuries, keeping meat cold was a struggle. Suddenly, the suburban middle class conquered temperature. Cold food became a status symbol. If you served hot stew, you were old-fashioned. If you served a cold, congealed salad, you were modern, you were wealthy. You had electricity to spare. The dinner party was the stage, the hostess was the director, and the pressure was crushing. Magazines like Better Homes and Gardens set the standard. Every meal had to be a performance. Food couldn't just taste good. In fact, taste was secondary. Food had to look structured, it had to defy gravity, it had to shine with a synthetic gloss. This was the dawn of convenience culture, but it wasn't actually convenient. It was labor-intensive art made from industrial sludge. Consider the appetizers of the early 60s. They were small, they were fussy, and they were covered in mayonnaise. Mayonnaise was the mortar of this civilization. It held the chaotic elements together. But before we get to the main courses of horror, we must address the elephant in the room, the wobble, the shimmer, the gelatin. Act 2, suspended in animation. Nothing defines this era like Jell-O, but not the Jell-O you know, not the sweet lime dessert at a school lunch. We are talking about salad, but this was a lie. It was the tomato aspic. Look at it, really look at it. A savory tomato juice jelly. It sits on the plate like a red biological sample. It quivers when you walk past the table. Why did we do this? Why encase savory food in a wobble? Because we could. It showed mastery over liquids. It turned soup into a solid. And inside this red prison, vegetables, sometimes shrimp, suspended in time, like mosquitoes in amber. But the shrimp tasted like tomato. And the tomato tasted like regret. I want to take a moment here. If you are enjoying this descent into madness, if you want to see us eat a 50-year-old MRE next, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join our tribe of food archaeologists. We suffer, so you don't have to. Now, back to the wobble. Let's discuss perfection salad. A bold name, a confident name, a misleading name. It consisted of cabbage and carrots, finely chopped. So far, it sounds like coleslaw. But then came the twist. It was suspended in lime jello, or sometimes lemon. The clash of flavors is aggressive. Sweet citrus, raw cabbage, sulfur and sugar. It was bright neon green. It glowed under the dining room chandelier. It looked radioactive. Guests would slice a wedge. They would slide it onto their plates. It would slide down their throats, unchewed. Because how do you chew Jell-O and cabbage simultaneously? You don't. You survive it. But the gelatin obsession didn't stop at vegetables. It came for the meat. The 1970s brought us the meat jelly, leftover chicken, bits of ham, floating in a clear, savory gelatin. It looked like a biology experiment gone wrong. It was served cold. It had the texture of cartilage. It melted on the tongue into a salty puddle. This was considered elegance. This was high dining. It was efficient. Nothing was wasted. Everything was encased. Act 3. The Meat Mysteries. As we moved into the late 60s, the ambition grew. Gelatin was fine, but the hostess needed to sculpt. She needed to be a Michelangelo of meat. Enter the liver pâté. But you couldn't just serve a block of pâté. That was pedestrian. It had to look like something else. It had to be a disguise. The liver pâté pineapple was born. Take liver sausage, mix it with mayonnaise, mold it into the shape of a pineapple. But wait, it needs skin, so you frost it with yellow cream cheese. And the spikes? You assume they used pineapple chunks? No, that would make sense. They used almonds. Stuck into the liver, hundreds of them, and for the leaves on top, the severed top of a real pineapple. Imagine the guests' confusion. Oh, a tropical fruit! They take a bite and are hit with the metallic tang of iron-rich liver. It is a prank played by the hostess, a culinary ambush. Then came the rumaki. This dish had a passport, or at least a fake one. It was the height of the tiki craze. Polynesia was trendy, but no one had been there, so they invented rumaki. Chicken livers, wrapped in bacon, with a water chestnut inside, baked until crispy, served on a toothpick. It was salty, it was crunchy, and it had the soft, grainy texture of organ meat. It was the taste of the exotic suburbs. Every party had them, trays of brown, shriveled lumps, grease pooling on the doily. Men in wide ties ate them by the dozen, washing them down with scotch. It was a heart attack on a stick, but it was sophisticated. And let's not forget the sausage cake. I am not making this up. The archives are clear. It was sausage meat, baked into a bundt pan. It looked like a chocolate cake, but it was a ring of pork, often filled with mashed potatoes in the center, or scrambled eggs. It was a meal pretending to be a dessert, a recurring theme of the era. Deception. Nothing was what it seemed. The food was wearing a costume. Act 4. The Cheese Era. By the mid-70s, cheese took center stage, but not a wedge of brie, not a slice of cheddar. We are talking about processed cheese food, the orange block, the one that melts if you look at it. The centerpiece was the cheese ball, a sphere of soft cheese, rolled in nuts, sometimes rolled in dried beef. It sat like a planet in the center of the table. Crackers orbited it. Guests would chip away at the surface, creating craters. But the cheese ball evolved. It became sentient. It became the cheese hedgehog. This is perhaps the mascot of the 70s party. You take the cheese ball, you shape it into a teardrop. You stick almond slivers into it for quills. You use cloves for eyes. Maybe an olive for a nose. It sits there, staring at you, begging for the sweet release of death. You have to decapitate the hedgehog to eat it. It is gentle horror on a Ritz cracker. Why did we need our food to look like animals? Was it a return to nature or a mockery of it? Historians are still debating. Act 5. The Frosting Deception. We return now to where we started, the frosted sandwich loaf, the king of lies. Let's break down the anatomy of this beast. You take a loaf of white bread. You slice it horizontally, like layers of the Earth's crust. Layer 1, ham salad. pink, salty, pickled. Layer 2, egg salad, sulfurous, yellow, lumpy. Layer 3, chicken salad, or sometimes curry paste. You stack them up. The bread acts as the mortar. And then the frosting, a mixture of cream cheese and mayonnaise, whipped until fluffy, spreadable. You coat the entire tower. You pipe decorative rosettes on the edges. You put a radish rose in the center. You chill it for 24 hours. This is crucial. The flavors must meld. The bread must absorb the moisture. It becomes a unified brick of sustenance. When you serve it, guests gasp. A cake before dinner? You smile a wicked smile. Just wait, you say. You cut a slice. The cross-section is revealed. Pink, yellow, white stripes. The confusion is palpable. The first bite is a sensory overload. Cold, soggy bread, savory cheese frosting. 3 different proteins fighting for dominance. It is efficient. It is a whole meal in a slice. But it is also a crime against baking. Act 6, the shrimp tree. We cannot leave the 70s without discussing the tree. The shrimp tree. Christmas was the peak of the appetizer season, and the hostess needed a centerpiece. She went to the craft store. She bought a styrofoam cone. She bought a box of toothpicks. She bought 5 pounds of frozen shrimp. She boiled them. And then the assembly began. One by one, shrimp were impaled, stuck into the styrofoam, row after row, creating a tower of pink flesh. Sometimes greens were added, kale, parsley, to look like pine needles. The result was a fleshy Christmas tree. It sat at room temperature for hours, the shrimp drying out under the lights, the smell of low tide filling the living room. Guests would pluck a shrimp from the tree, dip it in a bowl of red sauce, and eat it. It was communal. It was primitive. It was hygienic nightmare, but it was festive. Nothing says baby Jesus like a tower of crustaceans. If you are currently remembering a shrimp tree from your childhood, if you have a repressed memory of a ham banana roll, leave a comment below. Tell us the worst thing you ever ate at a family gathering. We read every single confession. Conclusion, the morning after. So, why did they disappear? Where did the aspic go? Why are the sandwich loaves extinct? The answer is simple. Our palates changed. Global supply chains opened up. We got access to fresh avocados, fresh cilantro, real cheese. We stopped needing our food to be a science experiment. We started valuing fresh over complex. The refrigerator was no longer a novelty. It was just an appliance. We didn't need to prove we could freeze soup. Most of these dishes vanished for a reason. They were heavy. They were unhealthy. They were often flavorless, relying on salt and fat. They were brown and beige food. But they are not forgotten. For a generation, these dishes are memories of warmth. The sight of a cheese hedgehog doesn't just bring nausea. It brings back the sound of laughter, the smoke of cigarettes, the clinking of glasses, the sound of parents being young. These appetizers were an act of love, a misguided, gelatinous act of love, but love nonetheless. The hostess spent hours frosting that ham loaf. She spent hours impaling those shrimp. She wanted to create magic. She wanted to make the night special. And in a way, she succeeded, because 50 years later, we are still talking about it. We are still staring at the photos, fascinated, horrified, and maybe just a little bit hungry. The aspic may be gone, but the spirit of the dinner party lives on. So next Christmas, when you are serving your charcuterie board, with your artisanal honey and organic figs, take a moment, pour one out for the shrimp tree. It walked so your grazing table could run. It was a brave pioneer in a world of wobble, and for that we salute it.